Namaste. Today we are going to revisit karma and try to understand more about it and about the principles of karma yoga. What is the difference between karma and karma yoga? Everybody does work, but karma yoga means doing karma, being in the state of yoga. It can also mean doing karma in such a way that itself is yoga. So, karma yoga is the way to move forward in spiritual life. So, every action, can it be done in that way? What exactly should be the mindset of a person who's doing the action then? Why karmanne vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana? See, the ways of karma are quite difficult. The Bhagavad Gita itself says this. And, it says, karmani akarmaya pashed. Akarmani cha karmayaha sa buddhiman manusheshu sa yukta kritsna karmakrit. So one who sees action in inaction and inaction in action. So he is the wise man. What do such statements mean? It means, see, the fruit generated by karma is entirely under the intention behind the karma. A person may be doing some very menial task, but that task itself may be clearing his mind completely, leading him into the state of yoga. One may be a CEO of a huge company, but so taken up by arrogance and pride and more achievement, more ambition, that he may simply clutter his mind unnecessarily and lead a very restless, peaceless life. So what is it that matters finally? It is the state of your mind and the intention behind the action. If the intention behind the action is something very pure, then the action will naturally purify the mind. And the karma phal is actually generated by the attitude, the intention behind the action. So there are three effects of karma, which we have discussed earlier also. I will just mention them here before we go into the actual principles of karma yoga. The first effect of action is, any action will have a physical effect, isn't it? Which you can see in the outer world. Well, you taught a kid and the kid did very well in his exams. So the result shows the physical effect of the work. But the attitude with which you perform the action, that generates a sanskar in your mind. This sanskar is your gain through that action. Suppose you did it with a very selfless attitude of service, then that sanskar gets created in your mind. The sanskar of selflessness, it will purify the mind. Suppose you did it for money, then that particular sanskar got created in your mind. Suppose you did it because somebody asked you to do it. Your teacher told you to help that kid. So then that particular sanskar of obedience will become ingrained in your mind. So the attitude with which, the intention with which you perform the action generates the sanskar in your mind. Then there is another effect of karma. To the extent you have helped, help will come to you. Whenever you require it, at any point of time, it is called actually karma shay. It is the cosmic effect of karma, not just the physical or mental effect. The physical effect was the actual result of the action, which you can see. The mental effect is the generation of sanskar in your mind, which you may not see, but which you can feel. But karma shay, the cosmic effect of the same action, karma, is something you cannot see at all. But whatever, it's a force you have put into motion as a result of your work, it will come back to you at some point of time. So this is like Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. So this is what is generally called karma phal or bhagya, all this that people talk of. It is this karma shay. It comes back to you in the same, not maybe in the same form, but with the same power. If it's a good action, good will come to you. If it's a bad action, bad will come to you. As you sow, you will reap like that. So this is the third effect of action, which is called the cosmic effect or karma shay. Now, when you perform karma yoga, not karma merely, but karma yoga, you see, naturally your physical effect will be good. But your mental effect also, the sanskar generated is that of selflessness. As a result, it will take you forward spiritually. And the karmashay, the final fruit of the action, that itself will be only beneficial, only positive. Isn't it? You will not generate any negative effect through that work. You may be doing something very menial, but still, because the intention was so pure, because the motive was so pure, the action was selfless, so it will generate only good for you. And this may not be so when you are, performing a big action, but not with the purest of intentions. So this is how karma works. And that is why one who sees action and inaction, that is why this kind of a shloka is there in the Bhagavad Gita. And one who sees action in inaction and inaction in action, he is the wise person. You must understand a few principles of karma yoga, because now we have decided to dive into it. So let's do it stepwise. One of the first principles of karma yoga is detachment is of the will and not of action, not from action. When Gita is speaking of anasakti, detachment, it is of your will, detachment from personal gains. But action has to be performed. Action does not bind. I told you the intention behind the action can bind. So if you are detached in your will, you don't have to be detached from the action. You perform the action. It will not bind you. It will only affect you positively. It will only bring good into your life because you have withdrawn your will from selfish gains. Like the example of the soldier which I gave you. An ordinary man attacking another person, he will be arrested or for murder or whatever reasons. But if a soldier attacks the enemy soldier, he is awarded. Why? It is not for personal gain. It is to defend the borders, to maintain peace in the country. So you see, when action is performed with a detached will, detached from selfish gains, the effect of that action is something completely different. So this is the first law which we have to understand. Detachment is of the will and not of action. The second principle of karma yoga is impassioned action comes through the power of yoga. Usually by action, we take it to be action plus passion and a lot of excitement about it. No. Actually, those who are great karma yogis are very calm and composed people. Continuously, they can keep working effectively, productively, with a very calm mind. This comes by the power of yoga. It is not about the excitement and frenzy of action. With a well-controlled apparatus, when you steadily keep working productively, then that results naturally in karma yoga. So this kind of an impersonal attitude and impassioned action comes through the power of yoga. The third, while performing the action, how exactly do we make it an offering at the feet of the Lord? A karma yoga is while you perform the action, you can use a background track. Like for example, Prakriti is doing the work, isn't it? Actually, Prakriti alone is doing the work through your instrumentation. Since you identify with that instrumentation, you feel you are doing the work, you are the agent. But no. Actually, it is Prakriti working. Everything other than the Purusha, other than the soul, is Prakriti. It includes the mind, all its different faculties, your thinking, feeling, willing, the motor organs, jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, the body, everything is Prakriti. This entire world is Prakriti. So actually, Prakriti alone is working, but you attribute that action to yourself. Although you are the Purusha, you attribute the workings of Prakriti to yourself. So that is why mentally run this track. Like we run 3-4 tracks, isn't it, many times when we are doing any work. So you must run this track that Prakriti is working through this instrumentation. I am the self ever abiding in the source. some such track you can use so that this egoism and arrogance does not come in the work. Really, we are the instruments in the hands of the divine. Whether we realize this or not, whether we want this or not, this is the fact of life. So if you have this as a background idea, it will help in your performance of Karma Yoga. The fourth principle of Karma Yoga is individual work is part of the cosmic Yagna. This also, whether you like it or not, this is a fact. Because you are part and parcel of cosmic life. So there is nothing called individual work. So work with this attitude that your job is to renew, replenish, rejuvenate life. Because you are part and parcel of cosmic life. See the whole picture. Don't see your individual little self there. There is a very beautiful story, based on this. It's a Buddhist story. There was this young monk, a novice who had just entered a monastery. So he was very young, a teenager. And he was very dedicated. He wanted to perform a lot of meditative practices and attain the highest heights of meditation. Very sincere little monk. And initially, the older monks, they gave him a big job. They gave him such a huge piece of cloth. And they asked him to put a red, actually he had to thread it, embroider a red patch there. A nice pink colored patch he had to put, but that itself took so many days. So while he was doing that, he was thinking, oh, I wish I could meditate. Why have I been given this job? And what does it amount to? And I wish I was in my meditation. I wish I was in my prayer. He kept doing the job thinking of that. And it was such a huge piece of cloth, folded in so many ways that he couldn't open and see what exactly was he was actually threading, embroidering. So after the piece was done, it took him a few days, and then after those 5-6 days, he handed it over to the older monk, and then the older monk said, "My son, do you know what you did?" And then the entire piece of cloth was opened up for him. It was unfolded. It ran to maybe a mile. So it was so huge. It was actually a huge embroidered face and figure of Lord Buddha in meditation. And this young monk had made those perfect lips of Buddha in that pink color thread. He had been asked to actually fill the thread with stitches, and that was the beautiful, perfectly calm, composed lips of the Buddha. So as soon as he saw this, he saw the whole picture, he was simply delighted that my action was towards this. I did not know it. So also, we do not know the whole picture. This cosmic yagna is taking place in this world. We are all part and parcel of this yagna, doing our own little duties. It is all, you see, the final yagna, the offering is going to go in the final havan. It will be the purnahuti there. So, but we don't know it. And we see only our little individual duties, our individual stands. So the Gita encourages us to see the whole picture. Everything about you is a result of the activities of others. Please check this out and see in your life. The food you eat, the water you drink, the air we breathe, and the kind of lifestyle we have, the relationships we have, it only shows the interconnectedness of all life. Life is interconnected, and at its foundation, it's a unitary whole. Our individual distinctions and differentiations are mind-made. And to the extent we identify only with the body and mind complex, we will appear more and more differentiated and individuals. But the more spiritual we become in our outlook, we will see the unity and we will see the equality in everything. And that is when your karma becomes karma yoga. So you see, these are some of the principles of karma yoga. The Bhagavad Gita is insistent on this, Yogastha kuru karmani sangham tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Perform action completely based upon yoga, in the state of yoga. See, this is the meaning. Yogastha kuru karmani, getting yourself established in the state of yoga, in the state of deep union with your higher self. Then you perform action. Yogastha kuru karmani, sangham tyaktva, and remain detached from merely body-based intentions, body-based activities, body-based relationships. Because that actually does not define you. Okay, for a certain need it was done, it was made, but your duty consciousness should rise far above your individual consciousness. Then, siddhya siddhyo samobhutva, that is when whether you achieve the result of your action or not, you will remain the same. Because to action alone you have the right and not to the fruit thereof. So then you will remain equanimous no matter what the result of your action. Samatvam yoga uchyate. This samatvam, this equanimity is what is called yoga. So you see, this is only possible when we are well established in the self and not merely our thought-based, emotion-based, perverse will-based activities, body-based identities. When we are above all this, when we are well established in the self, then only action actually becomes karma yoga. You become yogastha. This word is used again and again, that establish yourself in the yoga, in yoga first. This is used again and again. The yukta, one who has established himself in the knowledge of the self. Again and again it is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. For this very reason, that your very paradigm of thinking, feeling and willing will change once you are established in the true self. Otherwise, you will be functioning based on your false identity. Isn't it? Isn't this natural in everyday life? Please tell me, once you are identified with some particular thing, your intellect and your will only hover around protecting that thing. And you will leave aside everything else. This is the power of identification. So that is why before you identify with something, first get knowledge of your true being. You must know where to identify. And then your very thought and decision will be different. This is the huge message being given to us. And that is why, the general philosophy of the Indian cultural paradigm was always you move from the individual to a higher identity, a wider identity, say family-based. From there you move to a even bigger identity, a national identity. To that you move to a global identity. Which means your sense of being has expanded. When you touch consciousness, this happens naturally because it is only one consciousness that is expressing itself through so many bodies and minds. Through so many nationalities, through so many ideologies. It is only one being expressing himself through all these 7.5 billion people on the planet. And through everything, all living forms actually. So to become spiritual means this, to enter the heart of reality and function in this world as a karma yogi. Not to give up action and run away somewhere, that will lead to nothing. And action will happen. Physical or mental action will continuously go on. The only choice you have is to identify yourself rightly or wrongly and accordingly perform action. So Vivekananda gave out this philosophy in a huge form. That is why this is the basis of the Ramakrishna order, the great principles of Karma Yoga. And all service, that is why, to whomsoever, in whatever form, it is nothing but worship of the immanent God. God is not just transcendent. He is immanent in his creation. He is the self in all beings. So you are only worshipping God when you serve another. So all service is worship of the immanent God. This is the great philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita itself. So we will end this discussion here and proceed further in the next video. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.